Good morning, and thank you for listening to my presentation. My name is Christy Williams, and I am going to talk to you about geospatial technologies in education. It's more than mapping. And this is my final project for Dr. Park. My vision. Right now, some incorporation of geospatial technologies are done in the public school system and in higher education, but more can be done. Multidisciplinary. This is not something that's just related to mapping. In fact, according to Hirschney, there are many trends related to geography and geoliteracy that is becoming extremely important in the world today. Geo-awareness, geo-enablement, geotechnologies, citizen science, and storytelling. All of these are possible in a multidisciplinary cross-section of courses. This also can span different education levels. As we become more and more of the world today, what's going on in the world today, knowing these, becoming more geoliterate means becoming more active in our society. And this is promotion of learning. It's ongoing learning. It doesn't have to be in a classroom. It can be on its own. Geospatial technologies, or what I'm going to refer to as GST. Specifically for my project, I'd like to talk about citizen science, mapping, and storytelling. They could be supported by one of these learning theories in isolation or combination with others: constructivism, connectivism, situated learning, motivation, and volition. This particular aspect of GST I chose because I felt like we use our cell phones for GPSs, and we use Google reviews to talk about places. So in fact, many of us are already citizen scientists and mapping experts. And who doesn't like a good story? By adding these elements together and having people talk about it and connect with it and learn from it, we would be enriching not only the individual, but the world as a whole. So my example's context is regarding adult learners of English as a second language. These students have a high beginner, low intermediate proficiency of English, which is considered their L2 or second language. This class specifically that I thought of is a speaking and listening class, which places an emphasis on pronunciation and connective speech. My students are fairly new to the United States, meaning they just arrived to Tampa to study, or they have visited the United States before and this is just new to school to them. Most of my students have a mixed educational background in their first language. Some come with extreme normal literary skills and digital literary skills. Some do not. They also have different and diverse age levels, anywhere ranging from 17 to 50, and various first language backgrounds. So in this class, which emphasizes pronunciation, the students are assessed throughout the semester, but particularly during midterm, on ED endings, vowel sounds, consonant sounds, and word stress. These are the elements of pronunciation that are often needed at that high beginner, low intermediate level, since we're talking a lot about the simple past and how ED changes for each sound. It's extremely important. And vowel sounds, because we have such distinctive placement of our tongues and lips to create different sounds, this is often a problem for second language learners. And then learning the rules of word stress and then applying them. Along the rules of word stress, they also learn how to distinguish between function words and content words, which then provides them with the basic speech patterns for connected speech. then learning to change their voice so they do not sound like a robot, and they encapsulate both rhythm and emotion. I have here an example of a student work that was done videotaping, not in the classroom, so the time was slightly shorter, and it shows images and pictures. I don't know if you'll be able to.
The name is Cover 2. I'm going to show you my plan important events like that. First, I will call the city of Shibu in Eastern.
As you can see, the project already has audio and visual incorporated in the presentation, and since it can be done within a classroom or outside the classroom, they'll allow some creativity. I thought that the next step would be to use it with a GTS storyboarding. You see here is an example that I created for my students, and I've also incorporated both the links so that you can hear and take the tour with me. And I made an audio explanation so that it would be simulate what I would expect from my students. Since they are already comfortable with adding images and inserting sound, I feel that this next level of use of technology would have some problems because they would need some training, but I don't think it would cause a hardship. Many of my students are more tech savvy than I am, but as I said earlier, their digital literacy skills could be different. So I could imagine taking a class or perhaps two to show how to do this and provide my students with written instructions as well as oral instructions with this example so they themselves would know how to do it. Okay, so benefits and concerns with using GTSs. It's empowering. It's empowering to know that you can tell your story and have people listen to it. It also builds that motivation and volition, learning how to do something that's intrinsically important to you and your identity, as well as wanting to learn as long with the extrinsic motivation of wanting to get a good grade. It builds skills in language because it can be recorded multiple times. It's not something that has to be done immediately. So there is time to promote rehearsal and perfection if that's what the student desires. It builds skills in technology. And because it's internet-based, it's accessible by phone or desktop, laptop. I would probably encourage students to bring their own devices in order to do this so that they can practice. Training. Training is needed for both students and teachers. Currently, in the K through 12 system, teachers have non-student days in which they have training. From my own experience, having a day here once a month and a day there another month, there's no consistency nor time allotted to actually practice what you're training. And this was also reiterated in the Tan and Chen assessment that they did in their 2015 article. So training is a necessity. It has to be done not only for the teachers, but it also has to be done for the students. More time. One of the bigger problems that many of the articles that I read and many of the problems in our textbook has mentioned is the lack of time. Either the lack of time within the day or a lack of time in the curriculum. This is supported again by the Tan and Chen 2015 study. Once looking onto the state of Florida's Department of Education, each school has to have 180 days for school, and they can have the hours can be distributed so that it does not exceed the 180 days. So time could be adapted, modified, so that it could be incorporated. But there is that concern. Time for the teacher and time for the students. It cannot be ignored. So my recommendations. Pre-service training. If you are new or a novice teacher, having that training before you actually step into the classroom makes a world of difference. This was also supported by Joe's 2016 study about the disposition changing into a positive effect after pre-service teachers had some basic training with GTS technology. Establishing a acknowledgement management system. This would help to promote the ongoing training in both an informal and formal learning setting for teachers who are already established. By creating this knowledge management system and knowing that they could do it individually and be paid for it, or working with others and also have the opportunity to explore and see how it's being utilized, would only allow the technology to become more familiar with the teachers. This was supported by Tate and Jarvis's 2017 article about creating a community of practice. Utilizing GTS across interdisciplinary projects. Currently, I have an 8th grade daughter, and they're talking about the Holocaust in their English class. Well, what a wonderful way to incorporate GTS by perhaps creating a map with a storyboard of where the people in the story of the text of the novel they're reading are coming from, where they've been transported, where are they going. It would also be an opportunity to incorporate images that from the story they imagine what life would be like. It would allow them to have some creativity in explaining their understanding of not only the novel, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, but also the importance of the Holocaust. And that would incorporate social studies, civics, and English skills, critical thinking skills, critical spatial skills. Incorporate GTS in the daily routine. Here, it could be just as simple as, can you find this on the map? Or when my son was in 3rd grade, they would do Skype calling, mystery Skypes, in which they would connect with somebody, a class from someplace around the world. Well, there you go. You have the phone call, and then let's map it. Just something as simple as that would improve the geoliteracy skills, improve geo-awareness, enabling, and allow the students to become citizen mappers. Another example would be from science, would be combining a science and English and observation, critical thinking of the moon phases and how it changes. Some of our best knowledge about climate change around the world today is coming from the citizen scientists. And Kershey mentions this in his 2015 article. But even if we incorporate GTS in daily routine, it's not a one-size-fits-all. As Dr. Park pointed out in his 2019 lecture notes, it's not something that maybe is needed. And it maybe not be the right fit for the right situation. So with everything, we have to be careful. It's something that is beneficial, but am I using technology for the technology's sake, or am I using it to promote learning? Here's a list of all my references, and I thank you for your listening, and have a great day.